eternal, yet ever new. His advent and His proximity, His mystical leelas and His songs. Every mischief and miracle, a message memorable. Every pain and travail, a precept enacted. As the bud blossomed to reveal 1,000 petals, it can only be said that the fragrance of the first few years was unique.
If somebody tells you Bejawada mango or Alfonso mango, see my mouth already, it starts salivating. You already start, wow, Alfonso mango, because it is so juicy, it's fantastic. Swami says, but then, if somebody gives you a mango in your hand, what do? You take it, smell it, press it to see if there are any worms. The difference between the name and the form. Where only the name is there, there's instant faith. You get the experience already. Alfonso mango, wow, lovely, superb. Take the mango, you have to test. There is doubt. Is it good? Is it rotten? Is there an insect? Is there something spoiling? Is it washed? When the form is there, doubt is automatically there. And there were people who doubted Swami, especially in the early days. There was no body of literature. There was no Sai Baba man of miracles to read and come. You just don't know. Somebody who is half your age, who looks like a village cowherd boy, is supposed to be the Supreme Lord. So then there was this bunch of boys who had come and they said, there is something funny about this Sai Baba. I think he goes previous night and digs in Chitravati and plants whatever he wants. Next day he comes and digs them out and gives it. This is what his trick is. Those days the big groups would be 50 to 60 people. And Swami pulled out these boys and said, today these boys will decide where we will go and sit in Chitravati. These boys, you know what they did? They selected an area which was used as a burial ground. They all sit together. What do you want? Swami asked them. Do you want papaya? Do you want fruit? Do you want masala dosa? They're stunned. Masala dosa is a dish that is made hot from the tawa. You can't bury it under the sand there. Then Swami says, okay, go and dig. So the boy asks, Swami, where do you want me to dig? Wherever you want. This is okay. And he goes and starts digging at one place. He digs for some time, gets nothing. Swami says, no, dig further, dig further. And then even in all these little pranks or jokes, Swami gives so much message. Swami says, Yatna prayatnumal manava dharmamu jayapa jayamulu daiva dinamu. What Lord Krishna told Arjuna on the battlefield, Swami just doled it out. Swami said, efforts lie in human hands, but the results depend on God. So you concentrate only on the effort. Don't worry about the fruit. Come on, dig. He dug 3 feet. Now this boy started getting scared. He felt, what if I come across some dead body now? 3 feet I have gone in. And suddenly he touches something hard and cold and he's sure it's a skull. He shrieks. Ah! Swami says, what happened? He says, bring it out. He brings out, it's a big mango and everybody is able to smell it. Swami calls these 5 boys. And then from next to the sand he picks out a knife. This is a spot chosen by the boys. And Swami cuts the mango and gives one half of the mango to one of the boys. Then turns the mango, cuts the other half, in the middle is the seed, and gives it to the other boy. And then turns the mango, cuts another half, gives it to the third boy. Turns the mango, cuts 4th boy, 5th boy. And then again goes on and on and on and on. After 15 minutes, Swami, we can't eat anymore.
Chitravati Tira Chitrupa Baba Chitravati तरिंपचे चित्रावती तीर चिद्रूप भावा.
In this time around when Swami was taking devotees to Chitravati every day and doing some of these mind-boggling things, which, you cannot even imagine science explaining it. Don't even try. Around this time, a family came all the way from Delhi. The registrar of our university now, Dr. Naren Ramji, his grandmother came in the 1940s, and they came all the way from the capital of this country, from New Delhi, Mrs. Kamala Sarthi. Now, this lady was brought up in the Ramakrishna order. She had her guru and her faith laid in the Ramakrishna mission. And we all know that Ramakrishna Paramahamsa always discouraged people from using their siddhis to do magical things. So she came here, she saw Swami, and this mango was just a sample. Swami was doing all kinds of things. Swami was pulling out hot bundi from under the sand. Swami was, as you were saying, materializing masala dosa from the sand. So this lady was silently observing this whole thing, but she felt very uncomfortable. She said, if he is really a divine personage of substance, why is he doing all these things? Why should he do these things to boggle the people and make them get attracted to him? But one day she witnessed a scene. A group of devotees who had come and stayed for something like 3 or 4 weeks were leaving. They were leaving Puttaparthi and they were going back to their towns and cities. So the typical scene would be that all these devotees would board a bullock cart with all their belongings, and Swami would be there helping them all onto the cart, and they would slowly drive away the road which we showed, the road towards Bukkapatnam. On this bullock cart they would drive away, and Swami would be standing there at the edge of the Patha Mandiram and would take his handkerchief and would wave to them. And wave to them till that cart vanishes from that horizon. Till the time they could see Swami, they would see that Swami will be standing and holding and waving. And that would be a good half an hour, 45 minutes. And this lady was standing there outside the mandir and seeing the scene. And she saw that from the toddlers to the youngsters, to the elderly, the women, the men, all of them were sobbing. The prospect of leaving Swami was making their heart tear. They were crying. She could see that there was no difference in age or gender. Everybody was crying and sobbing and falling at Swami's feet. And Swami was telling, don't worry, I'll call you again soon. Just for a few months, go do your work and come. And they were all crying, and she saw that sight and she said, can somebody who just does miracles, can somebody who just does magic attract another person like this? If it is just those miracles, will somebody pine and cry like this, like they're leaving their dearest one like this? And as she was musing this over in her own mind, she said, it cannot be. These things cannot be the ones which are attracting these people. Maybe, she said, maybe it is Swami's pure, divine, selfless love. And even as she came to this conclusion, she felt somebody patting her on her back. Somebody tapped her on her back and she turned and it was Swami. And Swami said, Kamala Sarthi, right thought. Think in the same direction. You will understand my truth. Because he did not come here with his weapons. His powers were his selfless love. Swami would give interviews till 2 o'clock in the night, till 3 in the morning. Because devotees would come in cartloads. They would come and land at around 8 o'clock in the night. Swami would ask them to have their lunch, their dinner. And Swami would sit and start talking to them, to each individual, each child, each woman, each man in that group. And Swami would go on talking and interacting and spending himself out. When one day Karnam Kamalamma, the second wife of the Karnam of Puttaparthi, goes to Swami and says, Swami, why are you doing this? Why are you exerting yourself like this? And Swami would say, Kamalamma, I have to do this. If I don't spend so much time and if I don't put so much effort, not even a crow will come here. But you will also witness one day when I will just sit and people will come in thousands and see.
Swami has spent every moment of his life working. I know a brother of ours who had the privilege of serving Swami in Swami's residence. He would say, that night when we go to sleep, we would be woken up at 4:30 by Swami snapping his fingers. Swami would be awake by 1:30. Physically, Swami has, Swami's life is like, it's like that lamp, Swami just burnt out his body to give light to all of us. That is what Swami has done with his life. One teacher from the higher secondary school was narrating how his grandmother first came to Swami. Through that entire process of Penukonda, Bukkapatnam, horse cart, bullock cart, she arrives. She's really tired. She's crossing the Chitravati sands, and then she sees Puttaparthi. Puttaparthi, there's nobody actually. There are some cows in a distance, and there's one cowherd. That cowherd is resting like this on the cow. And she looks, "Hey boy, come here." And that boy comes. She says, "There's some Sai Baba over here. I've come to see Sai Baba." He says, "Oh, you have come to see Sai Baba?" Sai Baba stays at Pathamandiram. That boy did not say Pathamandiram because at that time that was called only Mandiram. So this boy leads this sir's grandmother to the mandir, and that is not all there. He takes her to one well and says, "See, this is the well that you have to take water for taking your bath and your ablutions." Then takes her to another well and says, "This well gives sweet water which you can use for drinking. You can put your luggage there under the tree, you can rest. Morning around such and such a time, Sai Baba will come, you can enjoy darshan, there will be bhajans, all that." And then this boy waves goodbye and leaves. This granny is thinking, "Now I've come all the way, okay, now something, this one small, at least some shelter like thing is there." And then in 10 minutes the darshan begins. And who does she see giving darshan there? That cowherd boy who's standing with the cow there, he's coming. This is Sai Baba. Yes. Swami was the first PRO of the ashram. Swami was the first watchman. Swami would get up and sweep the whole Pathamandir. He puts flower and garland and everything to all his own bust and Shirdi Baba's idol. He does all that, does everything, and there's one Om stone, a stone on which Om has been carved, which is still in Pathamandir today. Then he'll sit on that and wait. When people come, he will talk to them and sing bhajans. He's the first lead singer. Later on, he told some people, "Come, I will teach you how to sing." That was when a few ladies came and told Swami, "You don't sweep and mop, we will sweep and mop." Swami would not listen. He will get up and do. So what the ladies did is, let us get up even before Swami gets up. So they would rise early in the morning, and by the time Swami gets up, whole thing is clean. And that is how the task of sweeping, mopping, putting rangoli, flowers, to this day in the ashram that is carried out by the devoted women, it started from those days. That is how things have transitioned and come to where they are today. For everything, Swami was the first to do with his own hands.
Very true. When you say that Swami was the first PRO, he was also the first watchman of this place. Because Kamla Sarthi used to say, the first time when they came, they landed up at some very odd hour in Penukonda. They went and rudely woke up one man who had a bullock cart and pleaded with him and paid 3 times the fare and made him drop them in the other side of Chitravati. And just imagine, now of course this looks like the coastal cities of America or something. You can see the lights all over the hills. But those days, if you land on the other side of Bukkapatnam, even say after 7 or 8 o'clock, there's not a single light. There's absolutely pitch dark. And if you land there at 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock in the night, there is nothing. You just cannot see anything. It's full black. And imagine 3 ladies with 2 children land up at that hour in such a place where they cannot see anything. Forget the path, they can't see anything. And there in the horizon, they see somebody waving a torchlight. They see somebody holding a small torchlight and waving. So they say, okay, there's somebody there. They go near. Who is that? Swami is waiting there because Swami knows these people are coming and there's nobody with them. Swami is waiting there with a torchlight. There's one more teacher in our school who says this beautiful episode where he and his newly wed wife come to Puttaparthi. They come to know of Swami. They come, same thing. They are on the other side of Chitravati. And the river is flowing. They don't know how to cross. And there they see one little boy whiling away, probably holding some stick and playing with himself. So they call that little boy and say, how do we go to Puttaparthi? How do we cross? So the boy says, see, the river is flowing, but there is a certain part in which you can walk. I know it, you follow me. So this person holds this young boy's hand and his wife's hand, and they walk through Chitravati and come to the mandir. So the boy says, see, this is the place, you can go like this. Bhajans are going on, you can go and sit there. So he asks them to go, they enter through the back door. This boy enters through the front door and goes and sits on the throne. And this was a very, very common thing which happened those days.
Swami knew a time will come when he would declare that I am going to build a super specialty hospital that will provide free treatment to everybody. And all the critics would say, impossible. And then he would build it. And after that they would say, he might have built it, but it's impossible that it will run. In such a remote place, infection rate will be high, it will have to be shut down. And then it would run for 10 years, 20 years, 25 years. And then they would say, yes, this is impressive, this is good. And then Swami would say, you go and do this. And then they will say, Swami, God can do, we can't do. And at that time, Swami will say, shut up. You shut up, don't now say God and all that. I didn't come with money. I didn't come with resource. I didn't wave and materialize this hospital. I have done it the hard way. I have done it with nothing. I have done it without asking for anything because there are two traits in Swami: pure love and selflessness. And Swami always said, if you have pure love and selflessness, everything else will come and fall in place. My life is my message. It is not what I am speaking, see my life. And that is one more reason why we are embarking on this journey of seeing Swami's life. Because when we see Swami's life, we realize the power of purity, the power of selfless love. In fact, I am reminded of an incident. This is much later in the university days. A gymnasium had not yet been built. And so there were these students who wanted to build their muscles, and they had their own limited kind of gymnasium where they were doing exercises, when suddenly Swami's car comes and Swami walks out. And he says, what are you doing? He says, Swami, we are exercising our body. And they just stand like that so that Swami can also see the bulging biceps. Swami says, very strong, huh? Swami, all your grace, Swami. That is just a dialogue we tell Swami so that he feels happy. We are also egoistic. We feel I am doing the hard work. But Swami will feel good. So Swami, it's all your grace, Swami. Swami says, come, let us have arm wrestling. He says, okay, Swami, why not? The boy has no doubt that he can beat Swami. Swami is a puny hand. He's got such muscular hands here. But there's a wonderful opportunity to hold Swami's hand. So why not? So they sit and they start arm wrestling. A minute passes and it's at a tie. Nobody is able to move, and the other boys understand what this boy is doing. He is simply trying to prolong so that he can keep holding Swami's hand. Now they also want to wrestle with Swami. They also want to hold his hand. So they come and tell, come on, finish. Then one of the boys whispers, don't delay, we also want the chance, finish. And then he whispers back, I'm trying, I'm not able to move his hand. And then Swami says, you want to arm wrestle? Join. Swami, join. So now 2 against 1, 3 against 1, 4 against 1. And as if waiting for the climax, when it becomes 4 against 1, that is when Swami puts their hand down and wins. And then Swami asks in a sweet manner, Bhojanam cheleda? Didn't have breakfast? And they're all standing with sullen faces. What happened? Swami, you cheated. I cheated, why? Swami, you used divine power. This is cheating. You used divine power. And that is when Swami told. Swami said, you are greatly undermining divine power. You are underestimating divine power. Do you think I need divine power to defeat in Panja, in hand wrestling? You think divine power is to be used for this? Swami said, this what you saw is the power of purity. This even you can inculcate if you have purity. Throughout his life, Swami has shown only that, the power of selflessness, the power of purity. And in order to show that to the world, he made his own life his message, where he came with nothing, he asked for nothing, yet achieved everything.
And this is a very important message we have to listen, because even as we are going to go through the childhood of Swami, don't listen to it as it is a story we listen, Ramayana, Mahabharata, we listen to the story of Krishna, in the sense of its Bhagavatam. It's always nice to listen about the Lord. Listen to it also with the understanding that it is a lesson. Because as somebody beautifully said, people try to imitate Swami. You have to emulate Swami. Because it is for this very purpose, Swami said, my life is my message. It is for this very purpose he made the choices he made. It is for this very purpose he came with nothing. And he said, you also are coming to this world with nothing. But if you hold on to that love, if you hold on to that selflessness, if you hold on to that purity, there is no limit to what you can achieve.
Legend says that this village was called Gollapalli, the village of cows, which abounded in cows. All the cowherds were very prosperous. They had no lack of milk, curd and butter at home. That was when one cowherd observed that his favorite cow is not yielding any milk. He followed this cow and saw that she goes to an anthill and a cobra comes out of that anthill and sucks the cow dry, drinks all the milk from her teeth. And then she returns home without any milk. He is very angered. He feels that this cobra is robbing away my milk. He picks up a boulder, throws it on that snake, and it is said that the snake, before dying, the cobra, looked up at the cowherd and pronounced a curse. And because of that curse, Gollapalli became Valmikipuram. Valmikam means anthill and Puram means village. And in due course of time, the anthills prospered, the cows died out. In fact, Valmikipuram in local Telugu dialect becomes Puttavardhini. Putta meaning the anthill and Vardhini meaning which multiplies. And Puttavardhini became Puttaparthi. That is how Gollapalli became Puttaparthi. It is after Swami's birth, during the Pathamandiram days, that Swami brought this rock and asked it to be cleaned and asked for sandal paste to be applied on one side of the rock where they saw the image of Lord Krishna. And today that rock is worshipped in the Venugopala Swami temple, which is right next to the Pathamandiram. All of us can visit, it is there. It's a beautiful, very peaceful temple set low in the ground. This rock is worshipped as Lord Krishna. And ever since that day, the curse seems to have lifted and cows and prosperity returned back to Puttaparthi.